All right, let's get right into it. We are about to go on a trip to a place that's both the most familiar and the most mysterious place you can imagine. And that is, of course, the inside of your own mind. We're going to explore what your brain is really up to when you think you're switched off, and we're going to pull back the curtain on a hidden network that literally shapes who you are.
I mean, really think about that for a second. You're staring out a window, you're zoned out in a meeting, maybe just letting your mind drift. It feels like you're not doing anything, right? But under the surface, your brain is absolutely buzzing with a very specific, very organized kind of activity. So what on earth is going on in there?
That's right. Your brain isn't off. It has simply turned inward. It's busy connecting the dots of your life. It's reliving memories, it's dreaming up the future, and it's thinking about who you are as a person. And this is not just some random mental noise. It's a fundamental, and frankly, an incredibly important state for your brain to be in.
And the system that's running this whole inner world operation, well, it's got a name. It's called the default mode network, and it is the secret engine that drives pretty much our entire internal experience.
You know, scientists first found the DMN almost by accident. In early brain scans, they kept noticing this weird thing. Whenever they asked someone to do a really focused task, a specific group of brain regions would go quiet. But the second the task was done, that same network would just roar back to life. This is your brain's default setting. It's that rich inner world you always go back to when the outside world isn't demanding your attention. So this really shows us the brain's fundamental balancing act. A great way to think about it is like a seesaw. On one side, you've got the DMN, your inner world. And on the other side, you have its counterpart, the task-positive network, or TPN, which lights up when you're focusing on the outside world. And usually, when one goes up, the other one goes down. This constant seesaw is how we switch our attention between what's in our heads and what's in front of our eyes.
But of course, as you can probably guess, it's never that simple, is it? A simple seesaw isn't the whole story. The relationship is way more dynamic and sophisticated than that. So if these two networks are in this constant dance, who's leading? Who's calling the shots?
And that is the million-dollar question, isn't it? What mechanism in our brain is the referee? What decides if it's time to daydream about vacation, or if it's time to focus on finishing this report? How is this incredibly delicate balance managed? Well, the answer is a third system, the salience network. The best way to think about it is like your brain's old-school switchboard operator. So, picture this. You're mind-wandering, your DMN is fully engaged. But the moment something important or salient happens, like someone calling your name, the salience network just jumps into action. It spots that important cue, it dials down the DMN's internal chatter, and it immediately fires up the TPN so you can deal with the outside world. It's the mediator that keeps that cognitive seesaw moving perfectly. Okay, so we have this beautiful balanced system, right? Constantly switching between our inner and outer worlds. But what happens if we could temporarily rewire it? What if we could actually remap it? Well, fascinating new research, especially with psychedelics, is giving us this incredible window into just how flexible our brain's wiring can be. This quote from a really important study just perfectly captures what neuroscientists are seeing. Under the influence of certain compounds, the brain's usual rules and boundaries seem to, well, they relax. This allows for a much more fluid, interconnected state of mind, what these researchers are calling unconstrained cognition. So here's what the brain scans are actually showing us. Psychedelics don't just shut the DMN off. Instead, they quiet the chatter within the network. And at the exact same time, communication across totally different brain networks skyrockets. Those strict boundaries basically dissolve, which leads to this big jump in brain entropy, or complexity. And here's why this is so huge. This state is what's correlated with those profound experiences like ego dissolution. And it's also why this is so promising for therapy. It's like a chance to break out of those rigid negative thought loops by literally hitting the reset button on the brain's conversations.
And we see this pattern with all sorts of different substances. Whether we're talking about psilocybin, LSD, or ayahuasca, a core part of the mechanism seems to be changing the DMN's connectivity. These objective, measurable changes in the brain are consistently being linked to some really powerful therapeutic effects that scientists are now exploring, everything from super fast antidepressant action to these profound mystical experiences. But this is so much bigger than just altered states of consciousness. Understanding the DMN gives us this incredibly powerful new lens to look at brain health across our entire lives, from the time we're developing to the time we're aging.
Now, this is really fascinating. You'd probably expect that brain connectivity just kind of declines as we get older, right? But the research is actually suggesting that in healthy older adults, the DMN can become hyper-connected, so more active and more internally linked. And the leading theory is that this isn't a bad thing. It's actually this amazing compensatory strategy. The brain is literally working harder to keep everything running smoothly as it faces natural age-related decline.
And then, in contrast, we see a very different pattern in conditions like autism spectrum disorder. You see, the DMN heavily overlaps with what neuroscientists call the social brain. And studies are showing that altered connectivity patterns within this network are really closely linked to the social challenges that can be a core part of ASD. It just highlights how vital the DMN is for how we understand ourselves and how we relate to other people.
So when you put all of this together, it becomes really clear we're talking about something way more profound than just a resting brain. No, we are talking about the very bedrock of our subjective experience.
The one thing to really take away from all this is that the default mode network is not passive. It's the active, constant process of taking our past, our present, and our future and weaving them all into a story that makes sense. It's the narrator in your head. It's the architect of your identity. And this internal narrator is absolutely central to our mental health. Understanding it is the key to understanding what makes us us.
And that leaves us with one last, really powerful question. As we learn how to tweak, disrupt, and even therapeutically target this network, we're doing more than just fiddling with brain signals. We are starting to interact directly with the machinery of the self. So the question is, are we just treating conditions, or are we actually beginning to redraw the very map of what it means to be conscious?